Thank you for still staying with us, and we're continuing in our very in-depth discussions this morning as we promised to keep you informed and inspired. We're talking Anambra State after President Tinubu's visit, and our guest is joining us via Zoom, Caleb Festus OKEKE NUB, a broadcast journalist and an analyst. Good morning, Caleb. Thank you for joining us on the show this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good morning, Kanuzu. Thank you for joining us once again. Now, let's just hit the road running. With Governor Soludo securing the ABGA tickets and Okachukwu, of course, the APC ticket, how do you think this is going to affect the political dynamics in Anambra? Also, against the background of the visit of President Tinubu and the grand reception of Tinubu by Governor Soludo, how do you think these things would play out?
Well, it's almost some months to the election. I can bet you that most of the political event activities that have happened recently may not be directly tied to how the election will go in November. You would find that a day is a very long time in politics, and President Tinubu has come and gone. Meanwhile, after his visit, there has been also some activities in Abuja where he presented the flag to his party's candidate, Evangelist Nicholas Okachukwu. So that has also overtaken, that event has overtaken his visit to Anambra. So if you just oppose these two events, you find that it is still too early in the day to say if these events are how they're going to impact on the election. But speaking to the specifics on the ground, the administration of Soludo has done, some good job. But like I always say, when you see real governance in action, it's not always about, it's not about content creation. If you see yesterday, was it the day before yesterday, Abia State celebrated 2 years in office of Governor Alex Oti. You can see the spirit of the people. I always maintain that Governor Soludo is half as popular today than he was when he contested the 2023, 21 rather. And so you find that what's going to happen in November, it's going to be a combination of what plays out in Abuja, where the president finally pitches his tent, and also how Governor Soludo would handle the message of the opposition as the campaigns begin. Because so far throughout his tenure, he has enjoyed a very comfortable tenure that has not been marked by any opposing voices. So how he handles the message of the opposition as the campaign begins will spell a lot as to how the electorate will follow him or not to the poll. But election as of today in Anambra State, the election is his to win, barring any serious efforts by the opposition parties, which is not just only Okachukwu. There's also the Labour Party, George Moralo, Chief Judge of Moralo. We also have the ADC, who also, I think their candidates were emerged about last week. One, Mr. John from Newi. A few people, YDP has a candidate too, in person of Poch Puma. So all these things put together, but of course the major candidates, like you pointed out, the candidate of the APC, APGA, and of course the Labour Party, which we can't write off. We will know, because of the person of Peter Obi, and of course the candidates, Chief John Mahal, who is also a sitting candidate. We can't write them off just now.
Right, that's very interesting. But personally, if I may ask you, how would you actually appraise the administration of Governor Chukwuma Soludo? You did mention the fact that he's no longer as popular as he used to be prior to, him emerging as governor of Anambra State. What are your thoughts?
Well, on a personal assessment, I would score him 5/10. Governor Chukwuma Soludo came in with a lot of expectations on the side of Anambra. he made a lot of promises during the campaign. He assured ANAMBRA, and of course, we had every cause to believe in him because he came with the right background, the right exposure. But what I have seen personally in the past 2 years of his administration, almost going to 4 years now, he has not lived up to expectation. We still have, for example, take for example the standard of roads he's constructing in Anambra State. I was in Aba in December last year. I saw the standard of roads being constructed by Alex Oti, who is barely just 2 years in office. He's using notable construction companies. That's not the case in Anambra State. We have a lot of substandard work going on in Anambra State everywhere. You go to the aspect of the aspects where he promised so much. He was heavy on the infrastructural promise. I've not seen so much apart from the legacy project he's done. One would expect that Soludo would have focused. I'm from Nnewi, so I'm judging from the indices of an Nnewi man. Market upgrades and all that, but we didn't see those things. What always we've seen so far they're more like he's trying to do a cosmetic job on Anambra State, and then he's doing it too late in the day. This started this work seriously 8 months to election, and so one would also fault the political timing of these jobs. Well, what is left to be seen? I'm not. I only have one vote. I may wield some form of influence, but I have only a vote. But if you ask me if my votes were going to determine his fate in November, I would say we should try a different person. We've come too long in the day. We've come too far in Anambra State from the days of Obi to entertain any form of mediocrity as we are seeing today in our politics.
All right, you are very much aware of Tinubu's visit to Anambra State. What were some of the action points or take home from his visit? He must have given 1 or 2 promises to Anambra State government, given the fact that he has already given a ticket to Ukachukwu. Are you saying that that event has completely, cancelled out on the promises he made to Anambra when he visited earlier this year?
Well, the promises that the president made are, as far as I'm concerned, political. He promised the connection of the railways through Anambra and all that. Well, politically, I don't know how much influence. I don't think President Tinubu wields any influence whatsoever over electorate in Anambra. In fact, the reverse is the case. If Tinubus should endorse anybody in Anambra, I think that person may find himself struggling for votes. What is very important here is that yes, there's the case of federal might, which that argument could be made. But if you look at it properly, if you look at it from the angle that that President Tinubu doesn't have any electoral currency in Anambra State. He doesn't wield any influence whatsoever. On the contrary, apart from those who are in his party, I'm not sure the name of Tinubu as a president can evoke much votes in Anambra State. So, like I said, those actions, those political activities are gone. They are not going to have a lot of bearing. Yes, as president, one cannot dismiss his powers. That's why we're talking about electoral reforms. He still controls INEC. He still controls a lot of the umpire activities for the election. But as a person, his promise to anybody in Anambra State going for an election would not amount to naught, because President Tinubu does not resonate with the electorate here in Anambra State. You would recall that he scored less than 5% when he ran as president here in Anambra, the votes he got in Anambra State. So I don't think that his endorsement as a person would amount to much. But as a president, yes, he could, as we have seen in times past, use the instrumentality of states to support his preferred candidates. But as far as what has happened in Awka during his visit goes, I'm not sure that we are now settled on who his preferred candidate is. The rule of thumb would make me rely on the fact that he would be supporting his candidates in the election, that is the APC, because that would do him more good than supporting ABGA. Otherwise, I mean, how does he hope to get 25% in 2027 since the country has come to a halt just now and we're all discussing 2027 election coming up 2 years from now? And so I don't see the incentives he will have to support ABGA on the ground here in Anambra State. He has more incentive as a politician to support his party, leading up to 2027 because he himself has an election, in 2 years' time.
Indeed, but you could recall what happened in Edo State. You did mention that he could actually deploy, some state actors to carry out certain activities during the elections. Now, how ready is the Anambra, to protect their votes? Of course, the electorate, they have the huge say in who they vote in or in who rules over them. But you have seen what happened in Edo State and in some other states. How prepared are you for this election to ensure that it is free and fair to a reasonable extent?
Well, there's not much citizens can do apart from vigilance, coming out on election day and vigilance on the D-Day. How do you prepare against impunity? Impunity can come in any form. It can come in outright announcement of the wrong person as winner. It can come in so many forms. And for we here in Anambra State, you record that we are not so government dependent. And so that our attitude towards governance, towards politics is not do or die, as you may find elsewhere in the north. So if you ask me how the ANAMBRA are prepared, I think that the ANAMBRA are preparing by, of course, they are joining the conversations. If you look at most ANAMBRA forums, especially on social media and elsewhere, you will find that there's a lot of conversations going on about the upcoming elections. And of course, a good citizen can only participate to the extent of getting to know the candidates he's going to cast his votes for. But as far as what they can do to prevent impunity is concerned, there's little much citizens can do. Of course, you can argue that they can come out, vote, and stand and protect their vote. But what if, the electoral umpire decides to announce someone else, as we have seen elsewhere? What if they use the courts? So that's why I said that when it comes to impunity, citizens who are not yet ready for a revolution don't have much that they can do. What they can do is to do their bits, come out, vote, stand, make sure that their votes are counted and the scores recorded appropriately, and follow up the polling unit results up to the collation centers, as well as follow the collation centers up to the announcement, the returns of the candidates. But if the leadership at the national level, who controls the levers of power and the instruments of coercion, of course, and also just lately, controls the judiciary too. If they decide to do otherwise, I mean, there's little much that ANAMBRA can do. Or knowing, of course, I'm speaking, knowing that ANAMBRA are not so government, politics bent on politics. They're not do or die political participators. And so I hope, it is just a sincere hope that both INEC, the presidency, and as well as the incumbent governor in the state, Professor Charles Soludo, that they all do play their part and allow a fair election to take place. Anything short of that would, of course, be would just go down the way it's gone. This country, people are fast losing hope in our political process, and it's time that they need to build more trust in the process. But citizens, of course, they are looking. I mean, like I said on one other interview, I said that good governance is not about content creation. We can see that in Abia states. Doesn't matter how much content you want to create out of whatever thing you've done. If you are working well, the people would know. They live within the community, especially those of us who are based here in Anambra State. We know the promises that were made in 2021, and we know just what has been achieved at this point. So nobody can fool anyone in terms of expectations versus reality. What remains is the notion where people say that the angel that you do not know, the devil you know is better than the angel that you do not know. I think that may be a sentiment that may play out, but suffice it to say that in Anambra, I think their level of participation in this election may be, way higher than they have ever done, because there's been more consciousness in Anambra State now. And of course, 2027 election will also be a factor. Looking towards, parties will be looking to make a statement, in preparation for the national election in 2027.
All right, I know you actually said it's too early in the day to make some predictions, but from your personal perspective, who among the candidates do you think is the most popular?
As of today, if you take a poll on the streets today, you will find that easily Professor Soludo would take the day if you take a poll today on the streets. I gave the reason before now. Democracy in Anambra State in the past 3 years has not really run the way democracy should run. Like I said, Professor Soludo has been one of the luckiest governors, in the history of Anambra State, recent history of Anambra State. He's had little to no opposition throughout his administration, and so most of the people coming out now are just coming now. And some of the issues that should have been raised by opposition parties all through the tenure since he came on board have not been canvassed. Just few voices of citizens here and there have been heard. So as of today, because the opposition parties have not done what they should do throughout the administration, issues have not been canvassed on, government has not been held accountable at every turn. Definitely, if you take a poll today in Anambra State, Governor Soludo would poll at least maybe slightly lesser than among the electorates. In 2021, he polled about 46% of the votes. I think if you do a poll today, he may be polling something less shy of 30%, of those votes, because like I said, he's not as popular as he was in 2021, but at the same time, the opposition parties are also less present than they were today than in 2021. So you see, those two balances it out. But of course, like I said, it depends on how he handles the campaign messages that are going to come out immediately the campaign is officially declared by INEC. But even before then, I think that the onus lies on the opposition parties, the APC, the Labour Party, and what have you, and other parties who are contending in this election, to begin to talk about the issues. There are a lot of issues that are happening in Anambra State because of the like I said, lack of opposition participation has kept them, under the carpet. But since we're having an election in November, it will be late to bring up all these issues and demand for accountability on every of those issues, and of course shine the light on how government has the failures of the Soludo government, since its inception. But today, the man to beat today is Governor Soludo, factually speaking.
Okay, talking about the peculiar issues of Anambra, now we know that political parties are founded upon ideologies. Now, based on these ideologies, how are these political parties addressing the peculiar issues of Anambra? Are we privy to any conversation as to how some of them plan to address this, peculiar issues? Let me know your thoughts.
Well, politics is still largely dependent on individuals. We've not shifted to ideologies. As an ardent student of Anambra politics, I will tell you that Anambra is not like any other state in Nigeria. What Anambra needs, its peculiar requirements, are very few, because the people themselves are very productive people. And so you look at the major areas are commerce. Anambra needs a political class that understands the place of commerce and enabling environments in building up the states to fulfill its potentials. For example, any government that is coming to Anambra that is not bent on market renewals, market expansions. For example, what you have here in Nnewi, in Onitsha, in Oka, and elsewhere, Ekulobe is still emerging, and Oba. If we cannot develop more of our markets into modern ones, and look at how we can support SMEs for manufacturing, every other thing is secondary. Like I said, infrastructure is good, but people have to be alive, to enjoy infrastructure. So the emphasis in Anambra should go towards the areas of our comparative advantage, which is commerce and industry. Another challenge that Anambra has faced, has always faced since its history, is environmental challenges, namely erosion. In many places in Anambra today, there are a lot of serious threats to lives and properties occasioned by erosion and gully. When I mean serious gully erosion and things of that nature. So the government in Anambra State has to also pay attention to the environmental policy and see how a holistic approach, which is a combination of both environmental policy formation, as well as addressing the natural disasters that are already manifest, can see how they can also incorporate the environment in that's where I fault Governor Charles Soludo. The nature of roads is within the Anambra State is not taking cognizance of the peculiar terrain and the erosion-prone nature of our communities. Most of our communities here in Nnewi, there's a lot of erosion-prone sites, and even ones that are full-blown. Same thing elsewhere. I saw a video from, was it Nnewi South the other day, where an entire community has been cut off. So any government that is serious in Anambra State must be serious on these two counts, on commerce and industrial development, as well as environmental policy, and how to address the myriads of environmental challenges that we have in Anambra State.
All right. Thank you so much, Nkanuzun Neri Caleb OKEKE, broadcast journalist. Thank you for your insights. Although I wish I had you longer, but that will be for another time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Nigerians.
All right. New Day continues right after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.